when you start transitioning, you are cautious. You don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, and you in turn don't want to feel uncomfortable. But you need to go to the toilet, and you need to do it somewhere safely. And you need to do it somewhere that aligns with the way you present. Hello, how are you? It's another exclusive podcast episode. And today I'm sitting here basically in my pajamas, to be honest with you. This is a t-shirt with Britney Spears on it that I probably bought from some sort of fast fashion outlet that I'm not proud of. Usually these Patreon extra exclusive content episodes, usually I film them right after the public episode, because I like to maintain a sort of energy. And I find that a lot of the time when you're doing podcasts, it can take like an hour to sort of get into it even, which leads me to believe maybe, I don't know, God, maybe there should be a pre-show as well, but I don't have 3 hours to do it. But yesterday when I recorded the main episode was my birthday, and I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't have it in me to do the Patreon episode on the same day. It wasn't so much that there wasn't enough time to. It was more just like I was tired. I had a busy day, exciting day, and I was exhausted, and I just thought, you know what, it's not going to be good if I do it now. I was struggling to get through the main one. I was just thinking about cake the whole time. I was thinking, I could be eating birthday cake right now. That's not strictly true, although I did have birthday cake. I had a very nice birthday cake that my boyfriend made from scratch. I'm kind of tired. I'm tired though of talking about my birthday now. Because it's come and gone. I'm not one of those people that likes to prolong the birthday too much. I'm not interested in having a birthday weekend. I'm definitely not interested in having a birthday getaway or something like that, It's just one day. I mean, let's be honest. For most of us, it's just a few hours. If you're being honest, that your birthday should last as long as it took for you to be born. Also, I was adopted, so there's not really much, not a huge amount of stakes really on your birth. I don't think trans people should celebrate birthdays. I'm going to say it. I think the celebration of the birthday is in itself a confession that you think that biological essentialism is important. Why are you celebrating your birthday? I think we should embrace more sort of like, we should just be able to decide when our birthday is. And a lot of trans people do that. They do that. Because some people, I remember people used to call it traniversary. Do you remember that? I don't know if you were around in sort of early trans YouTube. I wasn't on it, but I definitely used it a lot, to kind of feel out the landscape, see what was possible. I had a whole bunch of trans YouTubers, vloggers, content creators, as they call them these days, but they really weren't content creators. They were just people wanting to share their experiences, which is a lot closer to kind of what I'm trying to do, I think. I can't really do the content creator life. I've tried. I can't do it. The closest thing I'm doing to it is that obviously out of the podcast every week, I make a bunch of clips. I clip it up. I might do a little bit of editing on the clips, and then I put one out every day. That's just me trying to get my gosh darn subscribers up. But yeah, there were loads of trans YouTubers that I used to follow. There was Serena Influx. Do you remember Serena Influx? There was... God, it's so long ago. What were their names? Karmatic something, 64 or something like that. I don't know. They were great. They were really useful. It was just encouraging to see somebody out there doing it, you know. But both of those accounts, they are, you know, gone now. They've shut down their accounts. The accounts are still there. You can like look at the videos and stuff, but they're not uploading. They haven't uploaded for like 10 years or something. And sometimes I think, wow, I wonder, you know, what they're up to, what they're doing with their lives. I hope it's something great. But at the same time, I hugely respect that discipline, that restraint to just be like, I've got everything out of this that I can get. I'm off. I'm going to go and live my life now. Not that you should have to. I mean, I don't plan on doing that. I'll be podcasting on my deathbed. Has anyone done that yet? Has anyone done a deathbed podcast? Anyway, I'm getting distracted, but what I was saying is that a lot of those early trans YouTubers, they used to refer to their traniversary, which was like the time that they came out, as opposed to the time that they were born. And you know what we're like. That wasn't them saying like, I'm not going to celebrate my birthday, I'm only going to celebrate my traniversary. That was just people trying to get 2 birthdays. And I'm not about that. I don't know what my traniversary is. That whole time, years and years, like over a decade ago, is such a blur, because it was I'll be honest, it was difficult. It was a difficult, traumatic one. I had like a dramatic coming out kind of thing, you know. I had one of those ones that was that you don't always want to think about. Not that anything massively bad happened, but it was, you know, it was a tough one. It wasn't all sunshine and lollipops. Sunshine and lollipops. I'll tell you that it wasn't that. I'm trying to do this podcast one take. I do feel like the Patreon extra podcast, it should be one take, really, shouldn't it? You know, I've experimented with it. I'm still very much experimenting. I mean, I've only done 8 official podcast releases. That's not counting these extra ones. So in a way, you know, I'm still very much just trying to throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. Sometimes, literally, if you can see the backdrop behind me, I'm literally sticking things up on the wall like some 12-year-old. But you know what? Makes a good background. I want to get this whole thing plastered over. But I do think, you know, I've experimented with editing the Patreon podcast, and, you know, that's fine. It's good to edit if you have the time. It's good to be succinct. Editing is your friend. But also editing can be your enemy because it takes ages. Even someone like me who knows how to edit and has been editing for years, editing's one of those things that video editing specifically, I've simply never learned to really enjoy it. Like that short film that I made. I raised that money for that short film. I've made it. I've shot it, all of it. It's finished. I'm just still editing it. Not because the edit itself is like super challenging. I just don't like editing. Maybe I should find someone else to edit it for me. The pressure is on as well, you know, because I want it to be good. So the editing is like becomes laborious in that way, because you start to doubt yourself and you're like a perfectionist and you're like, I don't know if I should make this decision or that decision or whatever. I need to basically get a move on with it and get it done, because way overdue for the premiere. But yeah, I feel like having edited some of these podcasts and also had some of these just be unedited, I feel like it's okay to have some dead air in between. It's okay to have some space. It's okay to just have a chat. You know, that's what I wanted these to feel like, was just sort of like, hey, we're just having well, it's not like we're having a chat, because obviously you can't respond. It's like the way I would pitch it is, it's like you have gone to like a bar and I'm there, but there's nowhere else to sit, and there's only like one table and I'm on it. It's like a David Lynch dream sequence. There's one table and I'm on it and you have to sit there, and someone's put glue on the chair and then you can't get up and you just have to listen to me waffling and waffling and waffling about editing. But I like that, that's the kind of vibe that I'm going for. Also, there's a sort of danger to it. Doing the unedited version, there's a danger. Because what if I say something? What if I say something illegal, inflammatory? What if I bloody get cancelled? I'm not so worried about that. It's more just, what if I stumble over my words or do a huge sneeze? Now I've told myself that I'm not to edit this podcast. I have to remember I can edit it if I want to. I make up these arbitrary rules for myself and then I have to follow them. And actually, there are no rules and it's my podcast and I can do what I want. Speaking of which, I forgot to put the Patreon credits in the last video. In the last podcast episode, which is stupid because that's the public one. And that's the one that's supposed to have the Patreon credits in it. And yes, I could have deleted the video and then re-uploaded it and then, done it all again. But it takes ages. I'd have to re-edit it and it's like, I can't. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna post them in the description of that video. And next on the next one I'll do an extra special shout out or something. I don't know. Did I even put in the Patreon, in Patreon where you can put down your the things that you get for becoming a patron? Did I put down on there that you get credited in the videos? It's just something I've got used to doing. I like doing it. It's good to shout out the people that support you, but I forget. I need to get a post-it note. I should get a post-it note and put it on my wall by my computer where I edit that says, put the Patreons in. And that's the thing, I'm gaining Patreon, so I can't just have one thing that I just copy in every time. I have to change it. Anyway, this is why I edit, because this is not something that you have to know about. You're sitting there thinking, hold on, why do I subscribe to this? Is this all this is? Just the ramblings of a mad woman? No. I got things I want to talk about, obviously. Like toilets. toilets, bloody toilets all the time. But they're on my mind a lot. Toilets, honey, are on my mind. I don't think everyday non-trans people think about toilets. I don't think they can even conceive about how much we think about toilets. I was thinking about this the other day. It's a real shame, actually, that the quote-unquote toilet issue of the quote-unquote trans issue, as reported on by the quote-unquote big issue, it's a shame that our sort of primary civil rights struggle at the moment is about toilets. Because, look, I know that it's important, super important. The toilet thing is causing me a lot of stress at the moment. It's really important. I think about it all the time. But at the same time, I am also aware that toilets are funny and stupid. When you actually think about a toilet, what is it? Think about it. What is a toilet? It's not a trick question. I'll tell you what a toilet is. A toilet is usually, mostly, not exclusively, but usually, in my part of the world anyway, a porcelain bowl suspended on a plinth, like a bird bath almost, that we have all just decided it's perfectly normal to sit on it and then do a poo, and then that goes somewhere. We send it off to a place where we've never been, most of us. and we just let someone else deal with it. That's weird and funny. And I resent the fact that that is what everybody's talking about at the moment in relation to trans people. Not that they are specifically talking about that, but, that's the mental connotation that I used to have when I used to think of toilets. To me, toilets used to be, that's why I do a wee. But now they're this huge, political minefield of debate and, this and that. A whole load of this and that at the moment. And I wish I could just go back to the good old days when the most I thought about a toilet was I need to go to the toilet. But now it's can I go to the toilet? Should I go in the toilet? I want to go in the toilet, but will it be a problem for me? Will someone call me out? Will someone try to physically hurt me? Will someone fight me? Will someone challenge me to a duel? An old-timey duel? And we'll have to go back to back and do 100 paces and then turn around really quickly and shoot a musket, like in the movie Barry Lyndon, directed by Stanley Kubrick, which is massively underrated, probably one of his best films, lit predominantly by candlelight using special lenses. I just don't know if that's going to be the case, And it frustrates me because I shouldn't have to worry about these things, but I do. I don't want to get beaten up, ultimately. When the whole, no trans women in women's spaces Supreme Court ruling bullshit started happening, I was shocked by it, but I was also very much I got my back up and I was I'm going to continue to use the women's toilets. And I still stand by that massively. That is what I believe. If you haven't read it already, I posted an article that I wrote the other day called I can't remember what it was called. It's called it was something like why I'm going to keep using the women's toilets, up yours, sucker, or something like that. And it was kind of my statement, I guess, my public rallying cry, my wolf howl against the system, against the cistern. Just saying I will not be intimidated. This is principles, this is ethics. I make fun of myself, but that's genuinely what I believe. I believe that, the right for trans women to go in a space where they feel safe is existentially incredibly important. And not just safe, but to me, it's part of the social contract. It's part of, the ideals that I used to think we stood for, which is the right to autonomy, self identification. It's that kind of thing of well, I'm living this life. I'm dealing with the social consequences of this life. We can't ignore that. It's fantasy to just be you're a man, end of story, line in the sand, go in the men's. It's stupid, and it's equally as stupid to be because I've seen this thing a lot in the interview sphere, news sphere, chat show sphere, political sphere, politosphere. Some people are saying well, trans people, listen, you're not coming in the women's, trans women. Sorry, trans men, you're not going in the men's. That's it. You lot, you should be petitioning. You should be fighting and petitioning not to use the toilet that you've used for the past 13 years without any issue. No, you should be petitioning for a third space. Why don't you fight? Why don't you put all that energy that you've got from eating all those Smarties? Have trans people been eating blue Smarties again? The patronising language is ridiculous. I don't know, I swear, trans people, we must have the patience of saints, because the amount that we get patronised to is crazy. Oh, the trannies all kind of upset and getting all cranky. Have you not had your nap, trannies? We should apparently be putting that energy into fighting for a third space. And it's well, That's not cost effective. So there's a non-issue, because that is what this is. This whole thing is a huge non-issue. And listen, I know it might sometimes seem like I don't know what the opposite of non is. Yes. It might seem like a yes issue, a big issue. It might seem like that because there's a lot of extremely, extremely vocal, loud voices on the quote-unquote opposing side. A lot of people making an issue out of it. A lot of people pretending that it's a huge issue, you know. A lot of faux feminists. Sorry, they are. You know, these gender critical groups that pretend to be feminist yet don't hold any real feminist values in line with sort of like the way that everyone is thinking right now. I'm not saying you have to agree with the zeitgeist, but what I am saying is, you know, you would think they had read more than one book on the subject. Like, they don't, feminism is not something these people really engage with past the level of like, what's in it for me? Not me, them, the royal, you know, the royal me. Her, him, them, they. So because they're going off on one and making such a huge deal out of it, and, you know, petitioning and doing all their legal stuff, and with their flipping J.K. Rowling legal fund that she's just started funding for gender critical activism. So funny when she's going on about trans activists over. She's the biggest activist going at the moment. She's just chosen to be an activist for evil, basically. So you've got this big non-issue, okay? And they've turned it into an issue, apparently. And their response is, well, you know, to solve this apparent problem that isn't a real problem, we then need to petition for third space. At what cost? At what government cost? At what private cost? You know, you just have to, we're just starting again, are we? I mean, I'm not being funny. I don't have much faith for it because I don't think it really worked that well with disabilities. I mean, this country is like one of the worst. I mean, it's a good country for disabilities in some ways. Not great. Getting worse and worse and worse. But what I'm saying is it's like better than some other countries. But take it from someone who cared for a long time for a disabled family member and has worked in care for years. This country is not as, you know, the disabled access in this country is terrible. By and large, it's not great. If you have a disabled person in your life, ask them, say, what is the disabled access like? Or if you want to find out, you know, go to a comedy night in London. So many comedy nights in London do not have disabled access. Like, if the gig is upstairs in some of these places or downstairs, they're just like, sorry, if you're disabled, you can't come. Some places still don't have adequate disabled toilets, believe it or not. So it's like, you couldn't even sort that out. And now we're supposed to petition for an additional space. I don't know, maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm not quite seeing it. Maybe I'm stupid. I'm always happy to entertain that possibility. But above anything, I just wonder if the best solution to this whole apparent issue is not just to go back to how things were a month ago. I mean, I don't remember huge lines outside of the women's toilets because of trans people. How often did you see a big line outside the ladies' room in Weatherspoons, and then you tapped on the woman in front of you and went, what's the hold up? You know, I thought they had loads of cubicles in there. And then she was like, trannies. And she was like, what? And she was like, yeah, there's like loads of trannies in there. All weeing, all using our toilets. And they're angry. That doesn't happen, okay? We're such a minority, it is ridiculous. So, basically I used to, you know, I guess I never took using the toilet for granted. I don't think any trans woman does. I think when you start transitioning, you know, you are cautious. You don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, and you in turn don't want to feel uncomfortable. But you need to go to the toilet, and you need to do it somewhere safely. And you need to do it somewhere that aligns with the way you present. It's not about whether or not you've got a gender recognition certificate or whether you've got a vagina. None of those things should be important because they're your business. And to be honest, they're kind of inconsequential because no one should be seeing any of that in a toilet anyway. You know, you go in, you go to the toilet, you leave. I shouldn't have to say this. That's how 99.999% of people do it. But the thing that these gender critical people, or, you know, these kind of, I mean, bad actors, people that are just trying to like stoke the hatred of trans people in society and kind of exclude us and hope that we're going to like stay home. These people, I guess what they're trying to do is they're trying to get it to a point where we feel unsafe to go in there. And they're trying to get it to a point where they want... The reason why they're so focused on biology is because I guess what they claim to believe is that... Let's just put the cards on the table here. They think that having a penis, being in possession of a peener, is in itself... They think that makes you a ticking time bomb of sexual assault, basically. I guess their philosophy is like, if you've got one, you're going to do that. And that is alarming. And I believe that says more about their mentality, maybe, than the mentality of trans people, because I guess they're kind of saying, well, you know, if we had one, if I had a penis, I would be using it. Well, we don't think like that. We just want to go for we. That's it. Anyway, you know, I'm not the first person to make these arguments, and I'm sure they could be made way more coherently by, you know, your sort of Sean Fays or your Monroe Bergdorfs or whatever. I'm just like a little sort of troll-like trans woman, just sort of like venting into a microphone. But if you haven't read my article, I did my best to try and sum up my feelings on this. In that, I'll put a link to it in the description here. So again, it's not about like, it's not going to be published in a book, but I tried my best with it. I think it says something. I think it's decent. But a couple of weeks, last week, I was stressing out big time, and I'm going to be as well this week, because, you know, this whole thing has like deeply affected my mental health in the way that like it's forced my hand to essentially come out at work. Again, I wrote about this as well. And I was worried about writing about it because, I don't know, I feel like when you've got a day job, you don't want to like rock the boat too much. And I don't think I did. You know, I wrote about them quite vaguely. And it wasn't really about my work anyway. It was just more about sort of like the position that I'm in. And I would be in this position anywhere, regardless of where I worked. But this whole Supreme Court thing has put me in this really awkward position. I'm sure I'm not the only one where I've had to have done it now. I've had to come out at work. And, you know, my job, I don't live in stealth, you know, I'm open about being trans and stuff like that, but only as much as I have to be. And I've been in this job 1.5 years, and the whole time I haven't mentioned it to anybody. because it hasn't come up. It's not been necessary to do that. I didn't mention it in the interview. They might know. I don't really care. But it is very annoying that I have had to do this because I'm worried about using the toilets in the building. I've listened to 2 separate radio programs that directly talk about this ruling and how if I go into a ladies' room and someone has a problem with it and asks me to leave and I don't, I can apparently be accused of, credibly apparently, of sexual harassment. Even though I wouldn't be the one harassing. So because of that, I've had to come out at work and say, listen, I'm trans. These are the things I'm worried about in regards to this. Do you have any advice, or what we're going to do, basically? What should we do about this? But it's not quite as simple as that, because I also included a caveat into that, which I don't know if I should have, but I don't know, I didn't really feel like I had a choice, which was, by the way, if you suggest that I use the mixed toilets or the disabled toilets, I'm not going to do that. And again, it comes down to principle. It comes down to existentialism. It comes down to what I believe to be right and wrong. And if I did that, if I conceded to that, I would be deeply ashamed of myself. And I'll be honest with you, when I'm out in public now, I am slightly more worried than I was before when using the ladies' room, because the chances of me being confronted are probably higher now. Because I think that people, everyday people, not all of them, obviously, but I think people that definitely believe these things, these anti-trans sentiments, and certainly transphobic people, this law, this Supreme Court ruling, is only going to embolden people. If you pass a law, or, put it on the books that somebody's base prejudices are true, then that just opens the floodgates for God knows what. So that's where my concerns are. I am more vigilant and concerned about it. And I guess I need assurances from my employer or, businesses or anyone that, if something did happen, I'm not going to be liable, or I'm at least going to be protected somewhat. And I hate to admit this, I hate to say that, I do feel less safe and I'm more sort of careful now. When, for example, I can put up a big front about how, I'm going to use the ladies' toilets. And I am, and I have been. I haven't stopped doing that. But the truth is, have I been holding it more? Probably, yeah. I was in a restaurant last night, and restaurants are usually okay because, the toilets aren't particularly big and it's just wasn't massively busy. But I needed to wee, and I decided, because it was local to where I live, I was like, well, I'm not going to. And that might sound like not a big deal. You might be thinking oh, she's local to where she lives, so okay. But I think it is a big deal, because I have altered my behaviour in a way out of fear. I've altered my behaviour out of, essentially, bullying and intimidation. Not even physically in person, just politically. And although in that instance, okay, I was able to hold it and I was able to go home, that's not how I'm supposed to be living. That's the thing. That's not how it's supposed to be. I am supposed to be free and comfortable and confident. And a lot of these gender critical people, they'll tell you like, oh, the reason why you don't feel confident in it is because you know it's wrong. You know it's wrong. You know you're invading our space. My counter to that would be like, no, I've been doing it for 13 years. I don't just now think it's wrong. I know it to be right. I know that it's what you freaks are doing that is wrong. And that makes me sad with myself, that I would think that way. I would do that. Not calling them freaks. I mean, purposely not using the toilet. We like to think of ourselves as defiant and brave. I do. I'm not. But I definitely like to think of myself that way. I like to think of myself lots of ways. We strive for it, don't we? We hope. We strive for that. We all want to be the perfect activist. We all want to be the person who stands up for what they believe in. But at the same time, I'm not looking to bring trouble. That's never my intention. I don't want to get myself into a potentially traumatic situation. So yeah, to me that really, really sucks. Because it feels like it's like years of work, years of progress, years of getting to the point where you feel included in society. You make something of yourself, you become a tax-paying civilian, you're working, having relationships, friendships, obeying the law, doing everything right. And then suddenly, one day you feel like the rug's been pulled out from below you. That is how I would describe it. It's what it feels like. And so my stance is, well, if me using those toilets is an act of breaking the law, as silly as it might sound because it's just toilets at the end of the day, it's not silly to me. It's actually deeply, deeply important to me. And if that means breaking the law, then I will do that. There are a few things that I'm willing to break the law over, and I think it's silly for there not to be in your life. If your plan is to live your life obeying the law all the time, that's dangerous, because guess what? Laws change. And it's a bit like this, right? The police, they show up at Pride, don't they? And they have little flags on their cars, and they hold the flag, and they go, we're gay as well. We're in the police force and we're gay. I'm in the police, I'm a lesbian, whatever. You don't see many trans people in the police, but they are there, probably. And you think, oh wow, okay, all right then. But see, then the law changes, and those police officers, they didn't change the law. They didn't decide for the law to change. That's above them. That's, over their pay grade. But then it then becomes their job to enforce that law. So now a police officer, regardless of what they believe, regardless of their own personal ideology, they have to uphold that law. Does that mean that the law is right? Well, obviously not. It can't. Listen, you don't need a lesson from me in why the police suck. But my point is just that I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Because this does for me feel like a kind of fork in the road. Not just regarding my job, but regarding lots of things. I feel like I need assurances. And I feel like no one has them. And I feel like no one's going to have them, because ultimately corporations and businesses and employers and people like that, their main priority is making money. You know, that's just the truth of it. And so they will always err on the side of the zeitgeist, the establishment. You will occasionally get a rare company whose founders or whatever is quite, idealistic and involved, who will take a stance about something. That does exist. I'm not saying, it's rare. It's incredibly rare. But you will sometimes get that. But push comes to shove, it's not them that you see marching at the front of the protest, When push comes to shove, money's always the priority. And in lots of jobs that I've had in my life, I am very replaceable. And that's sad, but that's what it's like sometimes. And I hope that I get the assurances that I need, but I don't know. I feel skeptical about it right now. And not just that, I feel skeptical about a lot of things in the country. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. And you're thinking, oh my God, I can tell that the birthday's over. Yeah, my birthday's over now. So get ready for gloom and doom and gloom. All right, we'll lift it up for the last 5 minutes. We'll talk about something nice. Not about toilets the whole time. God, January's going on about toilets all the time. You're obsessed with them. I am. I'm fascinated by them and obsessed by them. I tell you what we'll do. How about this? Next week, we'll do something a little bit lighter. It'll still be about toilets. But next week, we'll look through the history of the toilet. We'll really get to the bottom of it, like what happened. And we'll go for as long as we have to until we get to the bottom of toilet history. That could be fun. Maybe that is what these Patreon bonus episodes should be. They should be something a little bit more avant-garde, maybe something a little bit more left field that I wouldn't really cover on the main podcast. A bit like when I did that George Santos one, that was fun. But we'll do one like that about toilets, maybe. I don't know. How about this? You're the patrons. You're the people who pay to watch me. What would you like to see me do? What would you like to see me discuss? I feel like this is a great opportunity for me to kind of be at your beck and call. Do you have any questions? I could do a Q&A. I could go through comments. I want to do stuff that's interesting. I want to do stuff that's good. I want to do stuff that you care about. This really is your episode. You are paying for it, so you should, if you care, if you're inclined to, you should suggest some stuff. And I'll definitely consider it, unless it's insane. If you say something like, you should go and jump in a volcano, I probably won't do that. But if you say something like, oh, it'd be nice to do a cooking video. Do a cooking video. I'll do it. I'll do a cooking video, I'll teach you how to make a pizza. All these things there's potential in all these things. If you request it, I'll definitely consider it. Okay, I think that's enough. Because one of the reasons I'm wrapping up is I can smell the delicious scent of dinner, which is going to be cooked soon. So I'm going to go have some dinner. And then me and my boyfriend are going to watch the very last episode of Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal, which I have been enjoying so much. The second series of it is one of the best things I've probably ever seen. And I haven't spoken about it much because I'm still formulating my thoughts on it. And I've got some thinking to do on it. But long story short, I think it's brilliant. And I didn't really want to comment on it until I'd seen the final episode. And once I have, I'll probably write something about it or maybe make a video about it. All right, well, thank you so much for listening, watching. I value you. I have fun doing this. It's a good outlet for me, having a bit of a vent. Maybe we can do the history of vents, ventilation. No, we're not going to do that. Have a good week, and I'll see you next weekend. Might record next week's podcast a bit early. I'll still put it out on the weekend next week, but I'm in Clacton next weekend. If you're not from Britain, you don't know Clacton. It's a seaside town, but it's like no offence to anyone who lives in Clacton. It's a bit of a shonky one. It's one of those ones a bit like it isn't stinky, but it looks stinky. But it's nice as well. It has beauty there too. And I'm going to go and try and find it. I'm going there for a family birthday. She's 90. Going to a 90th. That'd be fun. Maybe I'll take some videos and maybe I'll podcast from it. I don't know. That'd be crazy. Anyway. But yeah, so I'll record a podcast or two after work this week. If I'm still there. Do you know what I mean? Alright. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.